I stood in the far corner of the ballroom, invisible among a sea of sequins and selfies. The chandeliers above me glittered like galaxies, too far away to touch, too bright to belong to someone like me. My glass of champagne had gone flat. I hadn't taken a sip. In the center of the dance floor, my sister Madison spun in her $12,000 snow-white Vera Wang dress, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. Because she didn't. That was my job. The music pulsed through the room, the kind of expensive string quartet meets EDM mix that you only hear at over-the-top weddings where the floral arrangements cost more than rent. Everyone was smiling, drunk, and blissfully unaware. Or maybe they just didn't care. The world always had a way of orbiting around Madison. I just never realized how far I was from the center. I glanced down at my phone, a new email from the bank, subject line, co-signed loan, payment reminder. My heart clenched before I even opened it. $55,342.97. That number had been on loop in my head for weeks, burned behind my eyelids like a curse I'd accidentally said out loud. I had co-signed the loan for Madison's dream wedding. Or rather, I had saved her dream wedding from crumbling when her original financier, her fiancé's uncle, bailed at the last second. She called me crying, saying everything would fall apart unless someone stepped in, and who better than Big Sister Lily? 35 years old, auditor, frugal to a fault, a walking calculator with a savior complex and just enough credit to be dangerous. I'd spent a decade building a spotless financial record and a tiny nest egg for a home I might never own. One phone call and I burned it to the ground. For her. "Are you okay?" A distant cousin, someone I barely remembered from childhood Thanksgivings, tapped my arm. I pasted on a half smile and nodded. "Yeah, just tired." That was my go-to lie. Tired, I was tired. Tired of being the dependable one. Tired of being the silent supporter, the fixer, the fallback. Madison got standing ovations. I got financial responsibility. She got hashtags and honeymoons. I got interest rates and anxiety. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC announced, "please give a warm welcome to our newlyweds, Mr. and Mrs. Carter." Applause thundered through the ballroom. I clapped politely. My palms never touched. They kissed under a rain of golden confetti. People cried. I didn't. I kept watching the way her eyes sparkled. Not just with happiness but with something else. Triumph. As if she'd pulled off the heist of the century. And maybe she had. After all, I was the one left holding the bag. While the guests headed for the dessert bar, I stepped outside to the terrace. The night air was cold enough to make me gasp. I welcomed the sting. It reminded me I was still here. Still real. I opened the banking app on my phone. Stared at the number again. $55,342.97. It looked even worse on screen. I asked myself the question I'd been avoiding for weeks. Why did I say yes? Not out loud, of course. Saying it out loud would have made it real. But deep down, I knew the answer. I had always wanted Madison to see me. To really see me. Not just as the older sister who cleaned up her messes, but as someone worth loving back. Someone worth respecting. And she did. For about 5 minutes. Now, she was jetting off to a first-class honeymoon in Paris. And I had 30 days before the first loan installment was due. I tucked the phone away, took a deep breath, told myself the same thing I'd been whispering for weeks. She'll pay it back. She said she would. She promised. But even as I repeated it, something inside me whispered louder, "You don't really believe that anymore, do you?" The music swelled again inside the ballroom. The wind picked up on the terrace, slicing through my dress like a warning. And for the first time that night, I didn't feel tired. I felt something else entirely. Set up. 3 months before the wedding, I got the call that started it all. It was 11:14 p.m. on a Wednesday. I remember because I was halfway through balancing a reconciliation report for a client who apparently didn't believe in consistent bookkeeping. When my phone buzzed and I saw Madison flash on the screen, I hesitated. We weren't the kind of sisters who called each other often. We were situational siblings, birthday texts, family holidays, occasional brunches when she needed a ride or advice. But calls, late at night, that was rare. I picked up. "Lily?" Her voice was already shaky. "Can you talk?" Immediately my stomach dropped. I closed the laptop and sat up. "What's going on?" She broke into tears. Loud, theatrical, and somehow still practiced. "The wedding's going to fall apart," she cried. "The whole thing is going to be a disaster and I don't know what to do." I waited. She was always dramatic. but this felt real. James's uncle. He was supposed to pay for everything. It was all arranged. But now he says it's too much, that we're too young, that it's a mistake. He pulled out. I should have seen it then. The story was already full of holes, but all I heard was my little sister's voice, trembling and desperate. And for some reason, maybe out of habit, maybe guilt, I felt responsible. I just need you to help me secure the loan, she said, voice soft and pleading. I found a wedding loan through First Horizon, but I need a co-signer. My credit's not strong enough on its own. Madison, please, Lily, I'll pay it all off. I swear, I have money coming from the honeymoon brand deal and the influencer campaigns. They just need a few more weeks to clear. You won't have to cover a thing. I just need your signature. That's it. Please. She knew what strings to pull. Every insecurity I had about being the unfun sister, the too practical one, she tugged on them like a marionettist. She reminded me of all the ways I'd said no in the past, all the times I'd watched her get rescued by someone else because I chose silence instead. I would never ask if I wasn't completely sure I could handle it, she whispered. But I need you. This wedding is everything to me. And then she said the thing I wasn't ready for. You're the only person I trust. That line gutted me, because as much as I wanted to pretend otherwise, I still wanted to believe I mattered. That somewhere beneath the sparkle and the selfies, my sister saw me as more than just a fallback. The next morning, we sat at the bank. I wore a charcoal blazer and brought a list of questions. She showed up 20 minutes late in a white sundress and oversized sunglasses, chewing gum like it was a joke. The loan officer, a tired-looking woman named Carla, skimmed the forms. You'll be fully liable if payments are missed, she reminded me. There's no forgiveness clause on this package. You understand that? I nodded. My palms were already sweating. Madison was scrolling on her phone beside me. Don't worry, she said without looking up. It's just temporary. You'll be out of it before you even notice. I signed. It was over in less than 5 minutes. No lightning strike, no dramatic music, just a pen, a signature, and the low buzz of a printer spitting out my new debt. She hugged me outside the bank. It was brief, light but laced with something I couldn't name at the time. Thank you, Lily, she whispered. You saved me. I didn't know it then, but that would be the last sincere sentence she ever said to me. We went to brunch after, her treat. She ordered champagne. I ordered tea. You're going to love the dress, she said. It's custom. I'll send you pictures once it's finished. I smiled. But a voice inside me, the one I usually ignored, was already asking questions. Why did her fiancé's uncle really back out? Why did I have to sign instead of him? What happens if the payments don't come? I didn't ask. Because deep down I wasn't just buying into her wedding. I was buying into the hope that, maybe this time, helping Madison would mean I'd finally be enough for her to stay. But people like Madison don't stay. They float, from one perfect photo to the next. And people like me, we're just the soft surface they land on before taking off again. The first payment was due on a Tuesday. I remember because I had just finished a quarterly report at work, and I was feeling a rare sense of control, like just maybe I could juggle everything. I logged into my account to confirm that the automatic payment had gone through from Madison's end, just like she promised it would. But it hadn't. Instead, there was a red warning banner at the top of the page. Payment failed, account not found. I blinked. Refreshed the page, tried again. Same result. I stared at the screen, heart hammering. I knew what it meant, but I didn't want to believe it. Maybe it was a bank error. Maybe she had just switched accounts and forgot to update the autopay settings. I texted her. No response. I called. Straight to voicemail. I emailed. Bounced back. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Madison was always a bit disorganized with money. Maybe her phone was off. Maybe she was still traveling. Paris wasn't exactly known for great Wi-Fi in back alleys and wine cellars, but then days turned into a week. Then 2. Then a month. And Madison? She wasn't. MIA. She was everywhere. Her Instagram was full of curated perfection. Sunlit croissants on white marble tables, Eiffel Tower kisses with James, matching Gucci sneakers on cobblestone streets. The captions were full of dreamy nonsense like, chasing light and love had honeymoon vibes blessed. And not a single mention of the loan. Or me. My texts remained unread, my DMs were ignored. My emails went unacknowledged. I even tried calling James twice, but the number had been disconnected. The worst part? My parents didn't seem surprised. When I finally cracked and confessed what was happening, expecting some form of righteous fury on my behalf, all I got was quiet disapproval. "You shouldn't have agreed to sign it," my dad muttered. My mom just sighed. "You know how Madison is. She means well, but she's not always reliable." "She promised me," I said, voice shaking. She looked me in the eye and promised. "Sweetheart," my mom said gently, "she's been making promises since she was 6 years old and never finishing her vegetables." That was when I realized I hadn't just been betrayed by Madison, I'd been betrayed by the entire system of expectations I had grown up in. The golden child could make mistakes, endless, extravagant, expensive mistakes, and somehow everyone would still rally around her with excuses and forgiveness. But me? The dependable one? The moment I slipped, emotionally, financially, whatever, I was met with silence, or worse, "You should have known better." I began to unravel in quiet, controlled ways. I canceled my gym membership, paused my therapy sessions, sold my car, an old Honda but reliable, and started commuting by bus. My credit score, once pristine, took a nosedive after I made the first loan payment myself just to keep from defaulting. I went from budgeting for a down payment on a condo to calculating how many cups of instant noodles I could get for under $10. And still, Madison danced her way through Europe. Her feed lit up with Florence, then Santorini, then some poolside infinity resort in Dubai. Always tagged, always smiling, always with some vague quote about self-discovery and choosing joy. Meanwhile, I was discovering what it felt like to sit awake at 3:17 a.m., wondering how I had let this happen, not just once, but repeatedly. For years, why did I always say yes? Was it guilt? Obligation? Habit? Or was it something uglier, a belief, deep down, that this was all I was good for? I didn't want to believe that, but the evidence was hard to ignore. One night, after overdrafting to cover yet another payment, I stared at a blurry photo of Madison holding up a champagne glass on a yacht with a caption that read, "If you don't bet on yourself, who will?" I nearly threw my phone. She had bet on herself, and I had been the casino. That was the moment something shifted in me. It wasn't rage. Not quite. It was clarity. I could either keep bleeding for someone who didn't even glance back, or I could start patching myself up. And maybe for the first time in years, stop trying to save the person who never asked to be saved, only enabled. I used to believe family was supposed to be your safety net, that no matter how hard life got, there'd always be someone to catch you, hold you, remind you that you mattered. But after Madison vanished, I realized something much harder to swallow. Sometimes your family is the one who hands the scissors to cut the net. It started small, just a few snide comments during Sunday dinners. "I heard Madison's honeymoon is going well," Uncle Rick said with a smirk one evening. She posted a photo from Santorini, gorgeous view. I didn't respond, just kept chewing the dry chicken breast on my plate. Then Aunt Diane chimed in. "Honestly, Lily, I don't know how you could say yes to co-signing a $50,000 loan. You're so responsible." The way she said responsible made it sound like an insult. "I thought you worked in finance," my cousin added, not even looking up from his phone. I wanted to scream. Not because they were wrong, but because they didn't know. They didn't know the nights I spent curled on my bathroom floor, calculating how long it would take me to recover. They didn't know I'd sold the necklace Mom gave me on my 25th birthday to cover a payment. They didn't know I woke up with my jaw clenched so tight it hurt to chew toast. But I wasn't allowed to say that, because Madison was the family favorite, the radiant daughter, the social media star, the girl who brought light and laughter to every holiday gathering. I was just Lily, the serious one, the one who kept receipts and printed her boarding passes in advance. So I stayed silent. Until one night, after a particularly long day of work and an even longer spreadsheet, my mom called. "Madison sent us a postcard," she said. "From Morocco, isn't that sweet?" I didn't answer. She said she hopes to visit Japan next. She's just finding herself right now. Traveling has been good for her spirit. Her spirit? I finally snapped. She's finding herself while I'm losing everything, and you're acting like she's a monk on a pilgrimage. There was a pause. Then came the words I'll never forget. "Well, honey, maybe you're just being a little too dramatic. It's only money, only money, only money." As if 50 grand didn't represent years of sacrifice. as if it wasn't my dream of finally owning a home, as if it didn't come with late fees and loan officers and monthly statements that chipped away at my sanity. I co-signed because she begged me, Mom, I said, voice, she promised me. You were there. You saw her. Yes, but you didn't have to agree, she said softly. You always want to be the hero, Lily. Maybe it's time to stop volunteering. That shut me up. Because deep down I'd started wondering the same thing. Was this my fault for always trying to fix everything? Had I created the very monster that was now eating me alive? I started pulling away after that. No more Sunday dinners, no more group chats. I stopped replying to the family Facebook thread, even when they sent blurry photos of Madison's new wellness retreat somewhere in Bali. Instead, I worked. I got up earlier, stayed later, took on side consulting gigs, gave up luxuries, nights out, new clothes, even my annual vacation. Every dollar I could spare went toward the loan, not because I wanted to protect Madison anymore, because I wanted out. I wanted to buy my freedom back, one painful installment at a time. People say it's lonely to isolate yourself from family, but in my case, it was the first time I'd felt peace in months. No more forced smiles, no more fake concern. No more pretending I wasn't bleeding out financially while my sister posted spa selfies in silk robes. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't poetic, but it was mine. I stopped waiting for apologies that would never come. Stopped hoping my parents would suddenly wake up and say, we were wrong to stay silent. Stopped needing them to see me as the wounded party. Instead, I focused on the only person who had truly stuck around through it all. Me. It was supposed to be a quick login. I had completely forgotten that years ago. Back when Madison was starting her influencer journey and I was helping her set up brand partnerships, we shared access to a joint email account, mostly for promo codes and affiliate tracking. She'd long since moved on to her manager's tools, but apparently she'd never changed the password. Neither had I. One evening, while trying to unsubscribe from yet another newsletter clogging my inbox, I clicked into the old email account out of sheer habit, and there it was, an unread thread labeled, Lily actually did it. I paused, my finger hovered over the screen, then I clicked. Pay off the loan in full, on my terms, reclaim my financial freedom, never again mistake loyalty for servitude. And then I got to work. Not for Madison. For me. Revenge wasn't in my nature, but rebuilding was. After reading Madison's email, I didn't scream or spiral. I didn't post a dramatic thread or send a scathing group text. I just disappeared from her life, and quietly from the family narrative. I ghosted the group chat. I muted her on every platform, and then I got to work on my own kind of comeback. By day, I continued at the accounting firm. But by night, I transformed. I used the same meticulous habits that had once made me the boring sister to carve a different path. One spreadsheet, one online course, one strategy call at a time. I learned about automated investing. I took on freelance financial planning clients who couldn't afford fancy firms. I started a blog anonymously, budget like a badass, and within 6 months, it had grown enough for me to monetize. I was still living frugally, still scraping, still paying that god-awful loan, but I wasn't bleeding anymore. I was planting. The shift wasn't dramatic, it was gradual, but it was mine. I remember one afternoon, about a year and a half after that wedding, sitting on my couch with a mug of black coffee, opening an email from Forbes Women. They wanted to interview me. Apparently, one of their researchers had stumbled on my blog and the community I'd built around practical wealth strategies for women recovering from financial betrayal. It took me 5 minutes to believe the email was real. But it was. And a month later there I was, smiling, awkwardly, in a blazer I borrowed from a friend, featured under the headline, The Silent Strength: How One Woman Turned Financial Betrayal into a Platform for Empowerment. I didn't think anyone in my family would see it. But they did. Of course they did. The group chat, silent for months, lit up with notifications. Uncle Rick sent 5 clapping emojis. Aunt Diane asked if I was hiring interns. My dad called and said he was proud of me, really proud. And then one afternoon my phone buzzed. Madison. The first message in almost 2 years. Hey sis. Saw you in Forbes, so proud of you. Would love to catch up. Also, I've been meaning to talk to you about that loan stuff. Let's chat? That's when I realized something profound. She didn't see me. She saw momentum. Madison had this sixth sense for recognizing when someone she used to overlook suddenly became useful. But I wasn't the same person who had signed that paper in the bank. I didn't need validation from her anymore. Still, out of curiosity, or maybe just closure, I agreed to a call. She was chipper, over-friendly, all fake light and laughter, just like at the wedding. "I've been meaning to pay you back," she chirped. "It's just been, timing, life. But now that things are calming down, maybe you could send me the details again?" I let her talk, ramble, make excuses, and then I said, "I paid it off." She paused. "Wait, what?" "The whole loan, every dollar. Last installment cleared last week." There was silence on the line. I could practically hear her recalibrating. "Well, wow, okay, that's amazing. Thank you. I honestly didn't expect you to do that. You didn't have to." "I didn't do it for you," I said quietly. "I did it to get out from under you." Another pause, then a nervous laugh. "Come on, Lily, don't be so cold. We're family." "No," I said, and this time, it didn't even hurt. "We're not in the way that matters." She tried to soften it, suggested we grab lunch next time she was in town, asked if she could tag me in something about the Forbes feature. It'd be cool for the algorithm. I declined, politely, calmly, firmly. Then I blocked her number. I didn't cry, didn't second guess, just turned the phone off and sat back on my couch. It was quiet, peaceful, no applause, no confetti, just me, and for the first time in a long time, that was enough. Because this wasn't revenge, it was release. I didn't ruin her, I just refused to keep ruining myself. There's something strange about the final payment. I thought it would feel like fireworks, like freedom bursting through my chest in Technicolor. But when I clicked submit on that last installment, 1,188.43 to be exact, there was no music, no applause, just a quiet little message on the screen. "Your loan is now paid in full. Thank you." I stared at it for a long time, and then I laughed. Not the bitter kind I'd gotten used to, just soft, tired relief. The kind that fills your lungs like the first real breath after holding it underwater for too long. The loan was gone, the debt was done. But what I gained was worth far more than the dollars I'd lost. People asked if I was going to confront her publicly, call Madison out, post screenshots, let the world know what she'd done. But I never did. Because I realized something along the way. I didn't need revenge to feel powerful. I didn't need apologies to feel whole. And I certainly didn't need the approval of a sister who saw my loyalty as currency. What I did need was closure. And I found it, not in one explosive moment, but in 100 small ones. Like the first time I went grocery shopping without checking my bank balance first. Or the morning I got promoted and didn't instinctively want to tell my parents, because their silence no longer dictated my pride. Or the night I looked in the mirror and for once didn't see someone who needed fixing. People still talk about Madison like she's magic. She's back in the States now, living in LA, still chasing light, still spinning half-truths into brand partnerships and yoga retreats. We haven't spoken since that call, and I'm okay with that, because I didn't pay that loan to save her. I paid it to save myself, to draw a line in the sand and say, "This is where you end, and I begin." My story didn't end with heartbreak. It began with one. It began the moment I stopped letting guilt write my checks and started cashing in on my own worth. Now when I speak to other women who've been burned by family, friends, partners, I tell them this: you are not unkind for drawing boundaries. You are not cold for walking away, and you are not weak for having believed in someone who didn't deserve it. Because what makes you strong isn't how much you can carry for others, it's knowing when to finally set it down and walk on. So if you're reading this or living through this, if you've ever been the reliable one, the fixer, the fallback, here's what I'll say. You don't owe them forever. You only owe yourself peace. And if this story hit a little too close to home, if you've been there, or are there, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment, share your story, or just say me too. Because sometimes knowing we're not alone in the mess, that's the first step toward getting free.